Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Mom Mode. This week, we have Becca on the podcast, and Becca is the founder of Homemade Social. And I have followed Becca for a really long time, just her journey before she met her husband to getting married, getting pregnant.
Even
And
before I met my husband? That's
here
crazy.
we are. I know. It's
Wow.
so crazy. I just came across you and I'm like, you're
What
fun
a
to
small world.
watch. You like
Wow, thank
garden? I'm like,
you.
I love gardening.
I love gardening.
I love seeing all
And
your flowers.
and pre-pregnancy, I loved both kinds of gardening, but now I'm just down to planting.
um, well, I'm just really excited that you're on the podcast. It's an honor to have you on, and I'm
Thanks for having
excited to
me.
dive in. For those who don't know who you are, can you just give us a
Yeah,
little introduction?
of course. Okay, so I'm Becca. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I own a social media and digital marketing agency called Homemade Social. We just celebrated our 7th birthday, which feels surreal. Like, I feel like such a small percentage of businesses last that long. And if you had told me that that's what I'd still be doing 7 years ago, I would be like, this is my dream, you know? So it's kind of cool
Yeah.
to be here full circle now that I'm a working mom. It's great. Um, but I'm originally from the Bay Area. I grew up in Santa Rosa, California. It's about an hour north of San Francisco. I came out to Arizona to go to Arizona State, and then I've just stayed here ever since. I absolutely love living here. And I have a husband, as you mentioned, a cattle dog who is turning 7 as well, and my 6-month-old son, Henry.
Wow. Bay Area is beautiful, but yes, I love Phoenix. We were talking about
Yeah.
how I previously lived in Phoenix and miss it dearly.
Yes.
And that's why I love seeing all your gardening too, because like the flowers, I just feel like you get
Oh,
such a great season for
we really do.
the
And we get it
blooms.
early, so it kind of like jumpstarts the getting rid of like winter seasonal depression.
Seriously.
Gets me
Yeah.
outside.
No, I agree. I feel like, yeah, this is like you're in your season now. Like Arizona's
Exactly.
coming into the
I'm
season.
thriving. hmm
Yep. Well, yeah, I can't believe Homemade Socials 7. That is
I know.
incredible. That's like such an accomplishment within itself.
Thank you.
Um, so why I originally reached out to Becca was when she got pregnant with her son, she would post all these cute updates of everything that's going on. And her son was Breech. And
hmm
so I'm just going to dive right into this topic here. Because when did you know that he was Breech?
Okay, I think we had a little. There was almost my entire pregnancy. There was like a small possibility of C-section because at my 20-week anatomy scan, they discovered that I didn't quite have placenta previa, where like the placenta's blocking the uterus opening, but
Mm-hmm.
I had like a low placenta. So they were like, if this does like heads up, you're gonna need a C-section. So like that was a scheduled C-section was kind of on my mind from week 20.
Yep.
But then when we had to go back to like the ultrasound specialist, I think at week 28 to see if the placenta moved. So I had basically a second anatomy scan. And I remember in that ultrasound, he flipped upside down, or I guess right side up. So he was breech. And from that
In that scan.
in the anatomy scan.
Oh my gosh.
And to my knowledge, from that moment, he was breech every day beyond that. Like there was never an ultrasound we had past that where he wasn't breech. So he was breech a solid amount. And I think starting at week 30 maybe was when they tell you like, oh, he'll flip back, like nothing to worry about it yet. And I think my doctor advised me starting at week like 30 or 32, like that's when I could start doing some of the spinning babies techniques, which I'm sure if you've heard the lore, you're doing like handstands and like you're literally doing, there's so many tips you can do to try and get your baby to flip. And then I think around week 33, I started seeing, I was already seeing a chiropractor for my pregnancy, more so just for like comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And then I switched to one who apparently like was supposed to specialize in flipping babies. And that was quite intensive. It was like 3 chiropractic appointments a week. And it was just so frustrating because he never flipped. I was doing
Yeah.
all the things. It was definitely like it's just a large mental load because I think it's it was my first experience with mom guilt because it was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, do I just accept my fate? And let's say he doesn't flip, just like accept the C-section and that's what it's going to be? Or do I do everything in my ability that I can to flip it? So it's kind of like, those first sacrifices you're making beyond yourself for your child. And long story short, I made all the sacrifices I possibly could and like kind of burnt myself out. Like it was, looking back, I'm like, oh, I kind of just wish, but it's always clear in hindsight. Like I kind of wish I had just given myself a little more grace and ran with the course, especially knowing like how straightforward a scheduled C-section is. Like recovery was definitely a beast and we'll get to that later, but like it was very safe. Um, but another like fun fact I'll throw in there is at week 35 of my pregnancy, my husband had to take, he's a lawyer here in Arizona, and his firm had him take the Nevada bar. And so for basically, and at week 36 is usually when, for breech babies, they attempt the ECV, like a manual flip attempt in the hospital, where they like, the doctor like puts his hands on your stomach and literally tries to flip the baby. So I was basically in like go time, like from weeks 32 to 36, like doing everything I could to flip this baby. And my husband was studying for like this crazy expensive intense test that like,
oh my gosh,
you don't want to not pass that test, because then he would have to retake it. They only offer it twice a year, and then he'd have to retake it once we have a newborn. So we were just like, it is also super important that he passes this test. So at my 35-week appointment, it was the only week that my husband couldn't come to my checkup with me. They were like, okay, baby's still breech next weekend, or I think it was this weekend. So my husband was gone. I think it was like a Tuesday. They were like, let's get you scheduled for your ECV, but I need you to be prepared for baby to come just in case it like escalates to an emergency C-section.
oh my gosh.
And so I learned that, I couldn't even contact my husband because he was in testing, and he had testing for one more day. So I decided not to tell him that until he was like done with the test.
Yeah.
And it was so unnecessary.
Which is so selfless of you, because I would be like, oh my God, I'd be freaking out.
Oh, I like cried the second I got to the car after my appointment. I was like, it was so frustrating. But I told my mom, I told his mom, I was like, do not tell Parker until he's done with this test. But yeah, any questions, Sarah? Do I move on to the ECV?
Well, I was going to say, can you name a few of the techniques that you tried? Because I've heard like crazy ones, like laying on an ironing board. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but like
I kind of did a variation of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where
people
I like
doing
elevated
flips in the pool. I've heard of different
I did the
things.
flips in the pool. I didn't do the ironing board, but I like elevated my hips. There's a technique where you like basically dive headfirst off of your couch with your knees still on the couch and like basically kind of do a handstand or an assisted headstand. I was, doing my chiropractic appointments. My chiropractor was having me take a Epsom salt bath every night after my chiropractic appointments to just like relax my muscles to maybe help, I don't know, my abdomen loosen so baby can flip. Honestly, those are the only ones I remember, but I swear I tried them all. Like you hear old wives' tales of like various techniques of people doing them. I tried everything.
Yeah. Would you recommend a chiropractor before we go on to the ECV?
I would, mostly just for like comfort, and I do hear that people have success with that.
Yeah.
It just sucks that I did not.
Yeah, I've heard, even if your baby's not breech, I've heard that it's like really good to go just like prepare your body.
Exactly. Yeah. And make sure you're aligned. Your hips are really easy to fall out of alignment during pregnancy. So,
yeah. Was it
but
painful for you?
Chiropractor?
Yeah.
No.
Like while pregnant?
No.
No.
Well, I think because I was going to the chiropractor, I probably was not in pain,
Yeah.
But I have 2 pregnant friends who I sent to the same chiropractor who both had breech, situations too. And one of theirs flipped and one of theirs didn't.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it's kind of like 50-50 shot.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
Well, let's go on to the ECV. So what was that like? Okay. Was your husband with you?
Yeah.
Were you by yourself? Because I'd be a little nervous. Like you don't know if the baby's coming, what's going to happen.
Yeah. So ECV, I was a little nervous. It is, again, it can be a very straightforward procedure, but the risk I believe that's associated with it is like baby's heart rate can drop, and that's typically due to what they think is like maybe when the baby, let's say the baby does flip in this procedure, the like umbilical cord gets wrapped around the neck or like something upsets the baby, therefore heart rate drops, then it results in like emergency C-section. So that's kind of why they wait until 36 weeks to do this attempt in case it escalates to an emergency. Like they want the baby to be, you know, large enough, big enough.
Yeah.
So they wait till 36 weeks. But yes, my husband was with me. We basically had to pack our bags like we were bringing home baby, which was just so like I remember I didn't have my like cute pajama or robe outfit, like hospital outfit for me or him yet, and that like made me sad. But so we got there on a Saturday morning, and in a way it was a blessing because it did prepare us. So like when it was actually time to go to the hospital, I felt like I knew where everything was. I'd been to OB triage before. Like there was definitely some mental advantages of doing this attempt. But basically, they did an ultrasound to confirm baby was still breech. It was. They put me on the monitor, and then they flagged that potentially my what are the fluids called
Amniotic fluid.
amniotic fluids. They basically flagged that my amniotic fluids were really low. Oh, and fun fact, when my husband came home from taking the Nevada bar, so a few days prior to this, he came home with COVID.
Oh.
And so I couldn't.
Did he pass the Nevada
he
bar?
did. And we didn't find out he passed the Nevada bar until October. So 5 weeks after my son was born. But so that just like was, again, another layer of stress on top of this all because like I didn't feel comfortable. Like we weren't sleeping in the same bed because I was like, I cannot get sick before this procedure. Like, what if, I was like, I don't want to welcome this baby into the world if I have COVID.
Yeah.
Let alone like it's miserable being sick while pregnant.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you can't even take anything for it. So we were just being super cautious. When we were both in the living room, we were like wearing masks. Like that was like literally the worst week of my life. So we show up to this ECV. My husband was still testing positive. We were both masked.
And they were like, they say everyone's birth story or like story is different.
Yes,
because like
exactly.
You can't make this up.
No. And it was so frustrating. And thankfully I was like, I never tested positive for it. I never got it. But I remember the nurses when they were checking us in, they were like, why are you wearing a mask? And I was like, he has COVID. And they were like, oh, like got it. And so my doctor's theory was once he learned I had low amniotic fluid, he was like, I wonder if your body has just been like working overtime to like fight something off or like keep you protected. And so you're just like chronically dehydrated. Also, it was like the hottest week in Phoenix that summer so far.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, we can't attempt the ECV with your fluid levels this low. Like the baby needs fluid to be able to like move around and whatever. And so we decided they gave me like 2 liters of IV, and they told me to go home and come back 48 hours later. So Monday morning, and I just like hydrated like crazy. And I don't remember my exact numbers, but I think that my number was at like a 6, and anything below a 5 results in emergency C-section. Like if your fluids ever get that low.
Okay.
And I think they want your numbers at an 8 for the ECV.
Okay.
For a successful flip. So I was going in at a 6, and I was just like, oh God, like now I have the risk, or now it felt like double the risk of delivering baby because it was like, okay, my fluid, even if my fluids don't go up, I have to have a scheduled C-section, or I guess it would be an emergency C-section, but at least I like knew I was having it. So that was stressful. So I went home, literally did nothing other than like drink water and lay down, like stopped all efforts to flip the baby. I was just like, I just need to hydrate. Came back Monday morning, had to take off work that day, and my fluids jumped up to like a 12. So he was like, A+ work, like great job, like let's attempt to flip this baby. And the ECV attempt was super straightforward. They gave me some oral medication, I forget what it was, to help with like numbing uterine pain, to help like relax. And the attempt was super quick. It was like it was done in the OB triage room. It was just my doctor and a OB triage nurse, and my husband in the room with us. And they had me on the monitor, baby's heart rate on the monitor, and doctor literally just takes his hands and tries to flip the baby. And he was able to get him maybe like 45 degrees. And every time he would flip him 45 degrees, he would flip right back to where he was. And he tried it basically 3 times. And the doctor was like, I think he tried it twice. And he was like, are you okay with me trying one more? And I was like, yes, like go for it. And then he tried a third and it didn't work. And it was kind of just like, well, okay. And honestly, I can say that my pregnancy, my mindset got so much better after that because I was like, I literally tried everything to flip this baby. I tried
Yeah.
like basically medical intervention to flip this baby. And that was when I've just accepted my fate that like, okay, I'm having a C-section. So I would say that like beyond that point, because it didn't escalate to an emergency C-section that day, I was just like, thank God. And I was kind of, I accepted my fate. But I will say pain levels really weren't too bad. I think a lot of people are afraid of that for an ECV. They like put you on, what are those beds in the hospital called where they like recline and whatever? It's just like a normal hospital bed. They
I don't know what
invert
they
you
call
a
them,
little
but
bit.
oh, okay.
So they invert you a little bit and you have to grab onto the like guardrails. And the nurse, I remember telling me to like wiggle my toes because if you're wiggling your toes, I guess it's really hard to engage your core. And the goal is to have your core be as like relaxed as possible so baby can flip. Um,
Interesting.
yeah. The only
So they
pain I
probably
really
put
remember.
you that way for like gravity.
Yes, exactly. So that
Yeah.
it's easier for the baby to just, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Turn the other way. And the only pain I really remember feeling was like the next day, kind of like on the lower part of my abdomen when I was like reaching over the kitchen sink, like, you know, that part of your body kind of touches the kitchen sink
Mm-hmm.
anyways. Um, that was really the only pain I remember feeling. But yeah, like I said, I was just like, after that point, it almost felt like relief. Like I would have obviously been really happy had he flipped, but at least I felt some relief that like, okay, I tried everything.
Yeah.
Like he does not
No.
want to flip. Yeah.
Yeah, he was comfy in his little spot.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen like a mix of moms being like, that have breech babies, they'll do like a ask me anything and people will be like, "Are you nervous?" And I have moms that have that I've read that try anything or their baby did flip or, maybe my baby's in this position because that's the way they're supposed to be because of the cord or you
Yeah,
know
exactly. Mhm.
anything. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I love how you said, like, thinking back now, like, you would have given yourself more grace. And, on your next pregnancy, if you choose to have another baby, you probably will. Like, you learn so much from that
Yeah.
first pregnancy, having that first baby. Um, but, you learn about a lot about yourself as well. And so
Yes,
that's
for
amazing
sure.
that did do all that you could do, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So
so
wild.
so wild. Yeah, and everyone's story is different. Now, for you, did your amniotic fluid then stay where it needed to the
Great
remainder?
great segue question. It did up until my 39-week appointment and my 39-week appointment was going great. I remember that morning, it was my first day of maternity leave. So I'd like given myself a whole week off before my due date.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like an unreasonably cool day in Phoenix. It was like 100. And I had gone for a walk that morning, like a curb walk, like a
Mm-hmm.
short curb walk. I had done an everything shower. I put on self tanner. And my husband and I go to our appointment and he's like, your fluid levels are low again. And they were he thought he was like, they're below a 5. And so I need you to go home, go to get your stuff, go to OB triage and have them remeasure. But it sounds like baby's coming. And I was like, what? And in a way, it was great because like it was my first day of maternity leave. So it was okay. But my husband was like all dressed to go to work. And then we just had to go home, turn around and get everything again. So same thing. We go to OB triage. I guess they have like a better ultrasound machine to measure the fluid there. And my levels were higher than he thought. They were at like a
Okay.
6 something. And then I was sitting in OB triage waiting to kind of hear back from my doctor on what the game plan was because my fluids were higher than he thought. And I do remember when I was at my appointment, I was like, well, what if my fluids are higher than you think? And he was like, they're not going to be. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I guess this is what's going to happen today. But they were. So I was like, I was just hoping maybe I would get a couple more days for him to cook or something.
Yeah.
And so while I'm waiting to hear back from my doctor, I'm all hooked up to the monitors. And I like remember seeing this purple line on the screen. And they had told me that one was my heart rate, one was baby's heart rate, and there was a third. And I remember seeing it go up and down. And I was kind of having like cramps. And I remember then asking, like, when they brought me in for the ultrasound, I was like, hey, what's this line? And she was like, oh, I don't know. I just did the ultrasound. So I asked the other nurse when she came in, and she's like, oh, those are your contractions. And I was like, wait, I'm in labor?
Oh my
And so I was
gosh.
like, I guess, like, I don't know
Did
if
you feel
I was
anything?
definitely, I mean, I was feeling kind of like period crampy, but it was
Mm-hmm.
definitely like pre-labor. And then in full transparency, that morning, I think I had kind of felt a little gush of like water that morning, you know, and I remember going to the bathroom and like my underwear was like a little wet, TMI, but like it was nothing nothing crazy. And I remember this
Yeah.
had happened to me once before, like 3 months prior, and I'd asked my doctor about it, and he was like, oh, that's normal. And so I didn't even like flag that to my doctor at my appointment. And so I was like, maybe that was like my water breaking. Like, I still don't really know.
Yeah.
But I bet you that's why my fluid levels were low
I
again.
was gonna say, I wonder if it was your fluid
Exactly.
releasing.
That's like my whole theory. I never got confirmation on that. But so then that basically confirmed, like, okay, baby's coming today, because I'm literally my whole goal with my scheduled C-section, which was, it was nice of my doctor to offer this. He was like, we can either like put a schedule or a surgery on the schedule today or for your 39 weeks, which is usually when they do a scheduled C-section, or we can wait until you go into labor naturally. But like, he was like, when you do go into labor, you got to come in fast, because for some reason breech babies come really quickly. So then I'm sitting there in OB triage. My fluid levels were low. Turns out I'm already in pre-labor. And my nurse was like, well, do you want me to see if have you been checked, or do you know if you're dilated? And I was like, I literally have no idea. Because at my 39-week appointment, he just did the ultrasound before checking for any of that and saw that my
Mm-hmm.
fluid levels were low. And he's like, you got to get to triage. So she checked me. I was fully effaced and 3 centimeters dilated already. And then again, I just kind of hung out in OB triage until I figured out what the game plan was for my doctor. And I will say I had spent a little bit of time researching like vaginal breech birth. And my doctor apparently is like supposed to be very supportive of that. Um, but he did tell me point blank, he was like, I would not recommend doing a vaginal breech birth for your first baby. It is going to be super painful. Like, it's going to be very a hard recovery. It's kind of dangerous, whatever. And so I had looked into this resource called Breech Without Borders. It's like a 529. I think I was going to like a prenatal yoga class taught by a midwife, and she told me about this resource. And so I watched some videos about breech birth, and I will say it actually scared me more than it gave me like confidence to do a breech birth. I know that it's kind of supposed to be the other way around. But you know, I had been like, okay, maybe I'll keep that in the back of my mind. Like, if I feel really confident or feel, you know, see how I'm feeling and day of, make that game time decision. And doctor kind of walked me through both, you know, we could do the scheduled C-section today or tonight, or he was like, or I could sweep your membrane. He was like, you could go home, have sex, and then we wait till you're like actually in more labor, because I wouldn't have been enough for them to admit me. Like, you know, I was only 3
Yeah.
centimeters. And my husband and I are kind of like, well, we're already here. We already like dropped off our dog at the at our neighbors to be watched. Like, realistically, having the scheduled C-section tonight is the safest route for both me and for baby. And we thought about it for like 30 minutes, and we're like, okay, let's just do the scheduled C-section. I think that was at 4:30, and they're like, great, you're on the schedule for 7:30. And
Oh
so it
my
was like
gosh.
so quick, and it was just weird being told that. Like, the aspect of it being scheduled is weird. Being like, oh my god, I'm going to meet my son in 3 hours or
It's
whatever, you know,
wild because it's so fast.
so fast. And it's just like, okay, like, everything was kind of happening quickly for me that day.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, once we got to the C-section part, like, again, I walk into the OR. I think I walked in at like 7:50 maybe, and they had given me some, you know, meds and fluids and everything before. Oh, and keep in mind, I couldn't have any food or drink. I think it was like after my 9 a.m. appointment that morning,
Oh
because
my
he was like,
gosh.
if we have to have surgery today, we want you clear of water and food. So I was getting hungry. So walk in at almost, I think it was like 7:50, and it was so quick. Like so straightforward. So like I could not believe it. At least it felt that way to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I walk in, they have me sit on the table. They put in the spinal tap. They put up the curtain. My husband comes in, and then they get to going. And I think like my husband had a playlist, and I think 2 or 3 songs played, and he was born. And it was 8:03. Like it was
Oh my
so
gosh.
fast.
That's
Yes.
really quick.
Which honestly, like, thank God. Like, I, it's not. I think I don't know. I was just focusing on breathing and trying to keep my mind off of things. Like, there was obviously like no pain. There was a little like the tugging that people
Mm-hmm.
explain, but it all went by so quick.
It sounds like it. And I had a C-section too. I have like no recollection of any time.
Really?
Yeah,
See, did your husband think it went by slower than it did for you?
I don't know. We've actually never talked about the timing. Like I never asked him like, did it go by quick for you? I just
Yeah.
remember after we had it, he was just like staring at me differently. And I'm like, are you good? Like we're in recovery and everything. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's just a lot. And I'm like, well, what? Like, tell me, like, what did you see?
It
Like
sounds kind of like
once,
my husband. Like my husband's not super emotional typically, and is a man of few words.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
But
I had him tell me, but like not everything. Cause I'm like, okay, wait, there's a chance that I may have another. So like, I don't want to know fully what you saw,
mm-hmm.
which I am going to have another one just because I didn't even dilate with all the
Oh
induction drugs
wow.
that they gave. I mean, I had Cervidil, Cytotec, Pitocin. I was there for like 40 hours and
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
I had the epidural in because they were like, we're going to try to break your water. And my doctor was like, we can't even get a Foley balloon in
Oh
there.
my God.
And I was like, okay, I'm exhausted. Like,
Mm-hmm.
when would we do a C-section? And similar to yours, actually, it went a little faster. He was like, right now. He's like, because I have others that are scheduled. And I was like,
Oh
I think I told someone else this. I think I passed out. And so like I actually passed out to where they were waking me up with like smelling salts. Because I
wow.
think my
Like you were
nerves just
literally
like
exhausted. Yeah.
I was exhausted. Same with you. Like they weren't really letting me eat. Like I think I like
Yeah.
begged him to let
Mm-hmm.
me have like a sip of water. And he was like,
Mm-hmm.
a small sip. But
Yeah. They're like, here's an ice cube.
yes, literally. But overall, yeah, I don't even remember music playing. I don't think we had a playlist. This next time I'll have a playlist. And, I think it does go fast. I just remember hearing my baby cry and I was like finally relaxed. I don't know how you were.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Oh
once
yeah.
I like heard them say like she's coming out, her shoulders out, and then I heard her like screaming and I
Mm-hmm.
was just like like my body could
Yeah.
then just like breathe.
Yeah.
Um
I was similar. So you know how they have like a clear curtain and also a not clear curtain? Like mine
yeah.
was blue. Um, so I remember the anesthesiologist being like, okay, Parker, like we're going to lower the unclear curtain so you can see the baby come out. And I wasn't like looking at Parker. Like my eyes were closed. We were holding hands. He's right by me, but I wasn't like looking at him.
Yeah.
And so I thought he was all zen. And then when they tell him that, he's like, no, he's like, I do not want to see you. He was like, absolutely not. And so he didn't see anything either. Like we
Okay.
kind of both went in blind. And then, but when he was born, they did pull down the curtain. And this is like my interpretation of it. You know how like, have you ever been to Seattle and go to the fisherman's market and they like throw big fish on like a bed of ice?
No, but I've been to Philly and they kind of do that at like the breading
Okay.
market or
It's like
something.
this big like
Yeah.
throw and it's just like the fish pops down. I literally equate like them putting Henry on the clear curtain on top of
Like,
me in that same
ooh.
manner. That's like, I am sure it was much more gentle than that, but like that's kind
Yes.
of how it felt. And it was just kind of funny, like petting him at first, like caressing him through the clear curtain.
Oh, yeah.
But it didn't even like clock to me at first that he wasn't screaming. And I was just like, wait, he's so chill. Like his eyes were open. He was looking at me and I was like, is he okay? And the doctor was kind of like hitting him, smacking him. And then he like, right after I said that, he screamed.
Yeah.
And my husband took a big deep breath and was like, oh, thank God. And like, it hadn't even clocked to me yet that like, I was waiting for the scream until it
Yeah.
did. And I was like, okay, phew. But I remember they took Henry away to do, the ankle prick, the weighing, the measuring, all the things before they brought him back to my chest. And then they put him on my chest and it was just like, he was so chill. Eyes like he was so alert. It was just crazy. It was so, like, it was still like so special,
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like, if you don't have a C-section, you think like, oh, the vaginal birth is so much more special, which like, I'm sure it is in different ways, but I
Yeah.
still have so many great like special moments from mine.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I'm like so for, I'm definitely like, I'm like, however your baby enters this world
Mm-hmm.
is beautiful. And,
Yeah.
you know, um, in a way, like that could have been life saving for you to have a C-section or your son, because
So
you never
true.
know what can happen
Exactly.
with a vaginal birth. There's,
Exactly.
or just like more panic. Like, you were at the end of the day, you
Mm-hmm.
had a really calm um
Yes. Like
moment.
there was no like tears from me. There was no pain. Like it was all very straightforward. Um, yeah, it was very beautiful. The longest
Yeah.
part was honestly getting sewed back up. Like they took Henry and Parker to post delivery or whatever. And I just waited for them to sew me up. That part I think took the longest because all I wanted to do was go be with Henry and Parker.
Mhm.
And like, but I was also glad that he was like, it was just a relief that like he was here. He was, from what I knew at that point, healthy. I was just like, I think they do more tests beyond that or whatever. So I was just hoping everything was going well. And I think that was the first question I asked once I got to post op. I was like, how is he doing?
Yeah. I didn't even ask that. And it's so wild because like now I feel
I
like,
remember being like, did I tell him I loved him when he was born? Like, I didn't
oh,
even remember like what I said,
yeah, no, I definitely didn't do that either. But like thinking about it now, you're like, there's all these tests that they have to go through, right? And you don't
Yeah,
even
yeah.
think about like even the hearing tests, all these little
Mm-hmm.
things that they do, which they
Mm-hmm.
look adorable with those little headphones on.
Yeah.
But
So cute.
you're like, you don't realize the importance of it. You're just like kind of like going through the motions, not aware of all that needs to be done.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you're like a first time mom, I feel like now I'm going to
yeah.
be like, okay, where's the hearing test? Like, is the
Exactly.
baby
Like, check
good?
things off the list. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say about like pregnancy is I feel like pregnancy was so much harder than I thought, even though like at no point was I really ever under like people actually have like high risk pregnancies. I wouldn't have, I mean, technically, yes, I had a scheduled C-section, but there was no point where like I was really high risk, maybe than like having low fluid, but it was so late into my pregnancy, it would have been okay anyways.
Hmm.
But I was just like, my heart goes out to women who have breech babies because like there really is such like a large mental load associating with even attempting to get your baby to flip, and the guilt associated with like deciding not to, if you don't want them to flip and you're just going the C-section route, or at least like what's for me, that it was just like there's so much to decide,
Yeah.
you know.
No, it's so true. Um, but
Oh,
I'm happy that he's here. He's very healthy. I mean, 6
yes.
months, you seem to be doing really well. Like I
Thank
feel
you.
like you like look vibrant. You look
Oh,
like, I
thanks.
mean, you've jumped back into work. How did your healing go with your C-section? And then how was like that time being home with Henry and still not being back to work?
Yeah. So I think it was about a 16-week maternity leave. And 10 out of 10 would recommend delivering just at the end of summer or beginning of fall because I loved having the holiday season to be home with him.
Mhm.
Um, my maternity leave was overall great. My recovery, those first, like, I remember getting technically like cleared at week 6, and all he really did was like, my doctor just looked at my incision, and at week 6, I still had like tiny openings in my incision that he prescribed me, like, um, basically, what is it called? Like, basically Neosporin for
Okay.
to like help it heal. And so I remember being like, I do feel weird that like this is still open, but he like wasn't really, that worried about it. But I did not feel ready to work out at week 6. I think I did my first workout at week 7 or 8. Again, like took it super easy. Walking was difficult. I would say the hardest part in those first 6 weeks postpartum was literally just like getting up and down off the couch or off the bed. Just like I have a deep, I guess deep seated couch is what it's called, like where the seats are kind of like longer.
Yeah.
Hated that because I was in a more reclined position and I just had no abdominal strength to like get up. Hated that. I like literally wanted to burn my couch to the ground. But I did get for my bed it's called a geriatric bed rail, and it's like a little handrail that slides under your mattress. Maybe you got it too. I see you nodding your head. And that was a game changer. So I
I
could like
haven't
literally
gotten that, but now I was
oh,
like
you
thinking
should get
like,
it for your
wait.
second. Yeah. It was so handy to just be able to like grab onto that and pull myself up to like reach to him in the bassinet. But like, my husband didn't really get a paternity leave. He kind of took a week off. And so I would say that part was like a little challenging, just like managing that.
Yeah.
But my husband did all night changes. Like basically if I could stay in bed, I would, especially at night. Like there was no way I was going to get up to change him in the middle of the night. So he took on that part. I obviously took on the feeds, and the first 6 weeks, honestly, kind of like a blur. I'm sure you feel the same.
Yep. I
Like
feel
I
the
don't remember
same.
anything necessarily like bad, but just I remember like growing, expanding, like becoming a new version of myself. Honestly, the hardest part was once my husband went back to work, I was so envious. Did you have that?
Yes. I did
Yeah.
have that because I left my job and I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Mm.
So I
So
was
your
very,
life did a full 180 and he was just
yes.
back to, yeah.
And then like talking, and then like I remember him traveling for work, and I'm like, oh, you're so lucky. And he's like, I'm going to work. And I'm like, but you still are getting to travel and like socialize and
Yeah.
get dressed. And I
Yeah.
felt so like frumpy and just not myself. And for me, like it was lack of communicating with like other people.
Mhm.
Normalcy. I think the
Yeah. I
normalcy
think,
I was missing.
yeah. And I think for me, it was like obviously it was both of our first times of being parents. And I think my husband just assumed that like when he got home, I still had like baby obligations. Like I'm kind of the default caregiver for baby, which like I would assume I would say that that's true for most moms, right?
Mhm.
But when he came home, all I wanted was a break from the baby. I was like, I would rather I do the dishes and you just do whatever. Like just take the baby away from me because I have literally spent all day with him and I just like need a break. Like I think that's a hard concept for dads to grasp at first, especially when they don't have a paternity leave because they're not there all day.
Yeah,
And so they aren't there to witness like all of the ups and downs you have throughout the day and how exhausting it can be. So I think it took a while for me to like communicate that to my husband properly of like what my needs were. Cause like sometimes you don't really know
for
going
sure.
into it. Yeah.
And like you said, he wasn't there to see it.
Yeah.
My husband gets 6 weeks, and he saw me going through it,
Mm-hmm.
but he was really helpful. But I will say till this day after work, I'm like, can you please play with Sailor? Like he's all for
Yeah.
like, babe, what do you need me to do? Do you need me to run to the grocery store? Do you need me to do this?
Yes.
Because some days
Yeah.
are harder. And I'm like, if you could watch Sailor and let me do something, like that would be
Mm-hmm.
great. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just need to
Yeah.
breathe.
Yes. I
So I'm
remember though in the
still that
beginning.
way.
Yeah. My husband would be like, do you need to get a pedicure? And then I would be like, yes, I'm going to go get a pedicure. And then the next weekend, he'd be like, do you need to go get a pedicure? And I'd be like, he didn't understand that women do not need pedicures every
Yeah, every
weekend. I was
week.
like, I don't need a pedicure, but I would love to just like be in my house without having the mental load of like, when is nap time? When do I need to feed him? When, it's a
Yeah,
lot.
it is a lot. It does get easier. So I know
Yes. And it
Henry's
definitely
6
got
months,
easier. Yeah.
Sailor's 2.5. And it does get easier. I mean, easier and harder in other ways. Like now they just want your full attention, and it's like playtime all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, mommy is literally trying to eat. Like I was trying to eat this morning. I'm like, I would love to go play that with you, but I need to eat before I get really nauseous.
Yes. Right. You're like, I'm literally on burning fumes right now.
Yes. So, but it gets easier that they can entertain themselves or that you can start communicating with them.
Yeah, like, he just started sitting in this last month, and even the fact that I can put him down and he can, like, sit instead of having to just always be, like, entertaining him during tummy time is such a
Yeah.
bigger blessing, you know?
Yep. It's really incredible how quick it goes. Like, I'm sure you can even say that with like the first 6 months of life. Like it feels
Oh,
like
yeah,
a blur, but also probably like
100%.
not, like
Yeah. I mean, there's, like, milestones along the way, like, key milestones where I remember being like, "Okay, I feel like I started feeling better postpartum 10 weeks, and then I remember again at 12 weeks, I was like, "Okay, I'm really starting to feel better." And then I think it was at 19 weeks postpartum, I was like, "I actually feel like I can start getting, like, stronger instead of just, like, lifting weights up and down that weren't like, I could actually, like, lift a heavy weight instead of just, like,
yeah.
doing the movement, if you will."
Yeah.
So it just came in chunks, and my mental clarity, the mental fog started going away bit by bit. But back to work. I structured my I think any business owner who wants kids, can kinda relate to this, especially women that, like, it is stressful being in a service-oriented business and figuring out, like, "Okay, how am I ever gonna step away from this business or, like, my role as CEO?" And
Yes.
so, basically, the second I found out I was pregnant, I was actually already working with a business coach, and I was doing work before even knowing I was pregnant to figure out, like, okay, once I do get pregnant, what is my game plan going to be? Like, I was just doing pre work to set myself up for success. And a couple of things she had me do, like, she had me research. So the game plan was I needed to hire a director of operations, someone who can, like, oversee the day to day so I can be a little more high level and then they can kind of run the show while I'm gone, on my maternity leave. And so she had me research, like, okay, what are typical salaries for a role like that in the Phoenix area? What do I want that job description to look like? What do I then want my job description to modify into once they're onboarded? That sort of thing. And it was just crazy because, I even looked into I have a friend who essentially is like a headhunter, and I interviewed with her to see, like, if she would be best to, like, help me hire for this role, and it was gonna be, like, so expensive. Like, they take, I think, a 20% commission of the person's first year salary,
Mhm.
to be hired. And there's obviously no guarantee that, like, that person stays in role or whatever, so I
Yep.
was like, ugh, like, I kinda had that figure in the back of my head, and I was like, "It would just be so great if I could, like." There was one girl who I had worked with, she was at a web design agency who designed our website, and I just remember being like, "I need a girl like her, like, someone who could do something similar for my business." And no joke, I was, like, 5 weeks pregnant. That girl emails me, and she's like, "Hey, just putting this out there. I'm looking for new job opportunities. I've attached my resume. Here are some areas of, like, work that I'd be interested in doing. Let me know if you know anyone or if, like, you have any opportunities." And I was like, funny enough, surprise, like, "I'm pregnant. I would love to meet with you over Zoom to see if this could be an opportunity."
That's
And that's who
insane.
I ended up hiring. Yeah. So
Oh my
her first
gosh.
day, it was such a small world and such a blessing. So
Yeah.
she reached out to me in January. So I was like 5 weeks pregnant. I think she started with us first week of May, and then I spent all summer onboarding her, getting her up to speed, training her before my maternity leave in August. My game plan was I didn't check my inbox for 30 days after he was born, like, literally completely checked out of work for 30 days, and then after that, I checked in every 2 weeks, and I kind of had, like, a task, like a running task on my to-do list. We use this tool called Asana where my team could notify me of things, and there was, like, a scale. So there was, like, high priority, medium priority, low priority. So if, like, all I got to around to that day was just the high priority things, we would be okay. Um, and it worked out really well. Like, I
Mhm.
felt just tapped in and plugged in enough to where, like, I knew what was going on. I could provide feedback or, guardrails or, guide them in the right direction if they needed me to. But at the same time, I also felt really assured knowing that, like, things were being taken care of while I was out. So that system worked really well for us.
Yeah. Definitely because I feel like that'd be really hard to step away. Like
Mhm.
that's your baby that you
It was
built.
scary. Yeah.
Um
And I think the fear is like, "Oh my gosh, are all my clients gonna leave, or are we gonna lose so much business while I'm gone?" Or,
Yeah.
XYZ.
Or just
And
like even dishing out your responsibilities because like
mhm.
I know me, like I like things a particular way, so
Yeah, exactly.
I just feel like that would be hard. But also
Yeah.
as a business owner with your business growing, that's probably something that you need to almost learn to do anyways.
Yes, yeah. And even I think I also had a fear. I was like, what if a few of my team members leave? Like, what if they leave me or, leave the business high and dry? So I had a lot of fears I worked through. But I think ultimately my team signed like 5 new clients while I was gone. I hired a contractor part time to do all like new business sales development while I was gone. So we signed 5 new clients. We technically hired like 2.5 new people, like one part time, two full.
Yeah.
And I was so proud to come back to, you know, business still running smoothly, in fact,
Yeah.
growing. Like, it was great to see what they could do without me.
Yeah, that's an amazing accomplishment for them, but also for you because you obviously did what you needed to do to get that set in place.
Yes, I was so proud of them, but also I I never thought I could give myself or I could run a team that could even be capable of doing that without me. So I was like, that's amazing, you know?
Yeah. No, that's definitely amazing. How is it now being back in the office,
Mhm.
working, but also being a mom? Like in
Yes.
your mind, how do you separate the two?
Okay. I don't in a way it's great because I work from home the majority of the time. We go into the office once a month. And I remember, it's hard when you're on a maternity leave to not count down the days or weeks till when you're going back to work and not being sad about it. Like I was like, "Ugh, I cannot imagine a world when I'm going back to work and like being happy and being able to do both." But once I kind of got my footing, right now I'm working a slightly modified schedule. I work like 10 hours a week less than I was before. So I work 9 to like 3:30. And I have in-home care. We have a nanny in at home who she gets here 30 minutes before I log on. So like if I've had a shit show of a morning with the baby, I can just hop in the shower for 30 minutes, get ready and
Mhm.
log on. Um but the first 2 weeks our nanny couldn't start right away from when I went back to work. So like my mother-in-law stayed here for a week and then my mom and sister came here for another week. And I was at first, Henry wasn't taking a bottle. He was taking a bottle just fine until I went back to work, and so that was a little unnecessarily stressful, like, stressing about, like, if I'm in a meeting and I can't feed him, like, there's nothing I can do, like, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Um, and once our nanny started, I don't know if it was just her magic touch or if he just, like, finally got used to it, um, but taking a bottle was fine, and my life has gotten so much easier having a nanny, like, I am so thankful for her, and literally, the mental load that she lifts off of my plate is just incredible, like, I think it's really nice being able to, like because I am working reduced hours, those hours are like a sprint, like,
Yeah.
all day, like, I'm just, like, like, putting out fires, trying to grow the business, trying to support my team, anything I can, and then once I'm off, like, I'm off, like, I will spend those hours with my son. If he's napping, sure, if there's nothing else I need to do at home, sure, I'll go and check Slack, I'll check my inbox, see if the team needs anything, but I will say I am definitely, like, a happier person having the working side of my brain back, and I didn't think I would be, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of that is because of our childcare situation, like, I understand how much of a privilege it is to, like, 1, be able to work from home, 2, kinda be able to work on my own terms, and 3, be able to afford a nanny at this stage. Um, it has really made such a difference, and, like, I'm happier now than I was when I thought I was happy in my maternity leave, you know?
Yeah. No, that's incredible. And I think it's really nice to have a balance of both. Like I said, I'm stay at home and I
Yeah.
feel like I wasn't exercising like that
Mm.
creative side of my mind, which is kind of where mom mode
Yeah,
became mom
flexes that
mode.
muscle for you. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it definitely flexes that muscle. It allows me to just, like, talk to moms and just have an outlet,
Yeah.
outside of, like, "Oh, I'm just a mom." And not that
Yeah.
just a mom is not an amazing thing, it is, but, like, as a person, I just felt like, "Well, who am I?" Like, if you took mom away, like, who am I still?
Mhm.
And so it's given
I
me
think
that.
so
So
many women struggle with that.
oh,
It's
yeah.
hard.
I think a lot do, and that's why I'm like, I wanted to hear your perspective and your experience with going back to work and juggling. Now, with you having a nanny, do you ever like take a break and see Henry throughout the day, or do you kind of just like know you're dialed into work?
Yeah. I would say 90% of the time, I'm able to do one feed during the time that she's here. Usually he has 2 feeds during her shift that she's here. So most of the time, her and I will just look at the schedule when she gets here and see like what his feeding is going to look like for the day, and we match it up with my meetings. And then like ideally, I'll take one of the 2 feeds just so I can just like be with him, nurse him, take a
Yeah.
little break, and then the other feed I'll pump around my meetings or whenever I need to. And that seems like I enjoy that. That works really well. There's been a couple of days, like obviously in office days, I pump both times. She gives him the bottle both times. But it works really well.
Yeah. That sounds like it works really well. And I feel like that's like,
Mhm.
I mean, it
I
is
get the best of both worlds.
oh yeah. And it's so ideal to have a nanny. Like I would totally
Mm.
like if I, ever went back to work, I feel like I would want a nanny and just have my children at home and,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
have that one-on-one with someone, especially when they're so young.
Yeah, I know. The downside to our nanny is she is starting law school in the fall, and so we knew from the beginning we'd only have her through August. But now that
Yeah.
I have her, I'm like, oh, I wish I could keep her forever. But we're just
I was
on.
gonna ask that. I was gonna say, like, there's always that chance. You just never know.
You're right.
Um,
I never know. But we're on a wait list for like, a Montessori school for transitioning at that time. He'll be 1 at that time anyways, so I feel like that
yeah.
could be a good time, but we'll see. Cause I've had friends be like, before I had a nanny, they're like, nanny life is the best life. You're gonna love it. And it's true. Like just she'll like fill up my bottle washer with water. Like, you know how there's like that water tank in the
Yeah.
back. Like she does that. She'll like fold laundry. Yesterday I went out to go grab my lunch from the kitchen. She was like organizing my Tupperware. I was like, I love you so much.
Yeah, they become
There's
like a
just
part of
little,
your family.
yes, it's just like little things like that that really, like, she takes out the diaper pail, folds his clothes, whatever. Like, those are things that probably save me 15 to 20 minutes a day,
Yeah,
like from what I would do outside of work,
definitely.
that I don't have to. Hmm.
Yeah. Well, it will all work out the way it's meant to, whether he gets into
Yeah,
Montessori or maybe you find another
exactly.
nanny.
And I'm trying not to think too much about it now.
Just like the
Like,
breach. It's just gonna
yes, you're
work out
right.
the way that it's supposed to work out.
You're right. You're right. It'll be good either way.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
As far as, you mentioned that you were from the Bay Area.
Hmm.
So how is it living away from family and having a baby now?
Mm,
I feel like that
yeah,
that might change the game a little bit.
that's a great question. Now, I would say I wish that our like right now we're in my office and the couch behind me is like our guest bed living room couch or guest bed, situation. And so it's not ideal for like now that I'm back to work having guests stay with us during the week. Sure, like a short weekend trip is fine, but like it definitely would be crammed in here if I was working from home and then we also had a guest staying in here. But the advantage was one of my sisters actually moved here last July. So I have some family here, which like
That's
kind of
nice.
helps. Like I see her, I honestly don't even see her that frequently. I would say like once or twice a month, but it is really nice having someone here now. But I was apprehensive like before Henry was born. I wasn't sure what that was gonna look like. My parents came out for like a week or so, I think when Henry was like 10 days old, maybe. Um, and then my mother in law and father in law live in Tucson. So it's like a 2 hour drive, not even. So in a pinch, like she's able to come up a lot quicker if we like need an emergency or whatever. And it's easier for us to go down to them. But there are days where I'm like, it would be nice if my family just lived here. But there's also, it makes it more special when they do visit,
Yeah.
and I FaceTime them all the time.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I'm definitely missed moments of like, I don't know, when you get to go visit them or they visit you and you just get to spend like full days and nights and wake up and have
Yeah,
coffee with them.
exactly.
Where like if you live in the same state, you don't really do that. You just see
Exactly.
each other on
Yes.
occasion for a couple
Mhm.
hours.
Mhm.
Because I definitely missed that. With living away, I'm like, wait, I'm loving living near my parents, but I like loved spending like a
Yes.
full week with them.
And like, I don't know, waking up in your childhood bedroom with your
Yes.
husband and your baby is like kind of special.
I would agree. I definitely miss that. Like my in-laws live in Georgia, and so we'll go and visit them, and I'm like, it's special to like wake up and be in our jammies and have coffee and
Mhm.
our daughter have breakfast with them and
Mhm.
versus we wouldn't do that if we lived there.
Exactly. And both sides of our parents were really great about like they both bought like crib bassinet situations for him so we didn't have to like travel with one. So, and like stuff like that just makes it a lot easier to bring baby, you know.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Well, for those, I appreciate everything that you've shared. For the moms that well, I don't know, it's hard. I guess what would your advice be for the breech moms and what would your
Oh,
advice be for the moms going back to work? Like first time moms. Cuz obviously like
yeah.
first time's hard.
Yeah. I would say with the breech situation, don't run yourself dry. I feel like I maybe gave my I don't know, but I had so many circumstances like with my husband taking the bar and then coming back with COVID. I feel like those were just like stressors I couldn't have planned for, right? That made
Definitely.
my those few weeks of my pregnancy extra stressful. Um I wouldn't get too in your head about it. Like do what you can, but like I said, a scheduled C-section really is so straightforward, so safe, so quick. Like it really I think there's no reason to be scared, you know?
Mhm.
And then for working moms, do what you can to prepare for your maternity leave even before you're pregnant. Like just start getting building blocks in place, especially if you're a business owner to for you to be able to step away from your business because now that I've like set up those systems and processes, like it was the best thing I ever did for my business. And it allows me to really just focus on like growth now that I'm back working rather than like being tied up in the day to day.
Yep.
Um and like I said, I've never been happier. Like I love having both. I love working and I love being a mom. And I wasn't sure if I was going to, but here I am and really happy with both.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that because I feel like moms need to hear that. I feel like there's so many
Mhm.
working moms that are like, is
Yeah.
it worth it? Or, is
Or am I
this,
gonna miss out on things or
yeah.
feel yeah, exactly.
Or once again, the mom guilt. Like,
Mhm.
but I think what's best is like your mental space. And so if that's healthy for you, then that's healthy for your whole family.
Exactly. Exactly. Great way to put it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And like I said, for everything that you shared, it's been so fun having you on.
Thank you for having me, Nicole.